Greetings, everybody. I'm having a little bit of audio problems with my opening credits. We just finished a debate with Leo and Grayson on the Big Bang. This is probably the smoothest. I'd say this is the best debate I've been a part of ever. I had, as far as a tag team, I had an excellent partner, and I feel that we got our points across as well as we could, and the opponents also put up a pretty good fight themselves. Proud of them. If you were a nerd, you definitely, I think, would have loved this debate. It was interesting and compelling, and there are a lot of open issues, which I think can be resolved experimentally. So there were some great questions out there. And so I'd like to say hi. Let me bring Samir. Thank you very much for visiting. And Schnoil, as always, what can I say? It's great to see you. It's been a busy time. And so Rebekah will come. She has to take care of her children. So she'll be, she might only be able to drop in for a few minutes. So I will look at the side chat to see if there are any questions. I thought the most probing question of the night that was Andrew Cumming. He said how matter interacts differently at different frequencies. I thought that was an excellent question. So there are two counters to that. There's only been a few papers that actually explored if the entire spectrum is actually moved, redshifted. This would be very interesting because matter only interacts at certain redshifts. A lot of times we'll only make a detector that can specialize in one frequency band. We don't necessarily know what happens at the other frequencies all at once. They have tried to establish this. I saw a few papers to that extent. So it's going to be interesting. I'm surprised there hasn't been more extremely methodical, careful study of this question. And if we do see frequency dependence, that would be interesting. If we do see that not all the frequencies are shifted, I happen to know for a fact that we're not even really sure sometimes. The data is not as clean as you think. I've seen good examples where we could take random data and we'll affix a redshift to it. And we have all these other spectral lines. It's like, what do you do with that? So it's going to be interesting. I did say there is work in photonics to study this. I wouldn't write it off. But I felt the point that I keep trying to tell people, and there's a reason I open with the quote: the slaying of a beautiful hypothesis by an ugly fact. I'd like to say a single ugly fact, because Einstein said, no amount of observations will absolutely prove a theory. One observation could falsify it, or one experiment. And so the Big Bang has been essentially, as I said, it's out of that spirit. It's like, this is like a religious belief. Okay. We put so many aspects that have falsified it. If you're going to ignore that, this is like geocentrism. You're just going to ignore all the anomalies. And when we first falsified geocentrism, some of the some of the falsifications were pretty subtle. Some of them would be even subtle today, such as the Coriolis force, or the centrifugal force at the equator is stronger than obviously at the North Pole, and that changes the gravitational acceleration, the position of the North Star. So, I mean, it's not like a lot of people could, would grasp that at the time that geocentrism was falsified. So geocentrism predicts. Okay, let me just give you kind of the framework of maybe not a so good theory. You could say, as in geocentrism, the sun rises every day. That's a prediction of geocentrism. Therefore, geocentrism is true. Okay, so when they're listing all these supposed fulfilled predictions, I'm like, guys, that doesn't cut it when you have all these anomalies, because geocentrism had all these successful quote unquote predictions. Even some of the ability to predict seasons and eclipses. It's like you could put that in a geocentric model. You had enough epicycles, you could make it work. Didn't make it right. And that spirit has kind of been lost in cosmology. And there's a joke. There's cosmology and then there's speculation. So, speculation is part of science. So you have observation, hypothesis forming, and then testing. But when you get to the point that there are some things that are beyond testability, it's like that's now outside of the scientific method. So maybe what we could do is we could put on the spectrum what we would consider, really well verified high quality science. I'd put geometric optics in that category. I would also put electromagnetic theory also there. Even though it's not quite as exact, celestial mechanics is a pretty good theory. Low quality science would be cosmology and evolutionary theory. I mean, that's just the way I'm not going to say, is it science or not? Let's just assume there's a spectrum of, okay, what you would call science. Let's call it science. How would you rank it in terms of the quality? And I would put the Big Bang as low quality science in terms of experimental methods. It's very high quality in terms of the caliber of the minds working on this. Absolutely, some of the best minds have worked on cosmology. So there are people that have worked in the cosmological realm that's very speculative, and then also in the practical realm that are first-rate minds. So you have first-rate scientists doing what I would consider high-quality science, and then engaging in speculative science, which I consider low quality. It's not necessarily on them that it's low quality because you have so little to work with. But I mean, it's not a reflection on them. It's a reflection of what's available. And when there are a lot of uncertainties, you're just extrapolating, and that's the best you can do. I would not put the Big Bang as like what I should have said. Would you put the Big Bang at the level of electromagnetic theory? Or, this is, that's how I would feel. T.S. Apostolos says, it's too bad a Catholic priest made Big Bang famous. Lamarck made the Big Bang famous, and I put up that thing God and the Astronomers. I really, when I nearly lost let me see if I can get my slideshow up. Oh, wait. Let me see what's going on here. Sorry, I accidentally pressed something I shouldn't. So, Mark O'Connell is here. He says, hi, sorry I can't stay for the episode. I at times need to do grocery shopping. It's a food addiction. I will watch later, though. Thanks for continuing the awesome channel. So, I'm going to bring up my slideshow here. And I actually opened with opened with Robert Jastrow, God and the Astronomers. Now, there was something here. Rebekah and I both let me just talk about the process of what we did. She and I had to negotiate the topics and the presentation. We argued a lot. She said, Sal, will you take that slide out? I'm like, okay. And I'd say, Rebekah, will you take that slide out? And, that's kind of a hard decision because, she, especially some slides, she invested a lot of her personal time researching and putting together. You could tell she was quite adept. And speaking of...
Hi, Sal.
Rebekah, oh my goodness, she's here. And
Can I sing We Are the Champions?
Yes, go ahead.
We are the champions, my friend. We did good.
Okay, this is the slide that inadvertently showed up, and she told me not to put. I was just talking about how our process. We were arguing. We were it was kind of hard. I was saying, we had to negotiate when we strongly encourage the other person to remove a slide in their presentation. So I was looking for Isaac Newton, and then I saw this. So Rebekah said, I don't want you to put that slide. Don't give me credit in front of everyone, or I don't understand. But I said, but Rebekah, you're the one that found this graph for me. You're the one that found this paper for me. That was like the centerpiece of my whole, my whole contribution was what you found. I just elaborated on it. So I would like to credit Rebekah. People have been giving her a lot of flack and saying she doesn't know anything. And, they've been picking on her. And I just wanted to stand behind her and say thank you for being such a wonderful, hardworking partner to do the research. I mean, who would find this graph in an obscure journal? And I'm just like, wow, I saw this. It took me 15 seconds. I said, we won the debate. We won what we set out to do. And so there you go. Now you can explain why you didn't. Yeah.
No, I would like to credit the scientists who wrote this paper. So Nikita Loveyegin, Alexander Raykov, Vladimir Yershov, and Yuri Loveyegin. So, these people who are killing the Big Bang. So thank you to them.
Yeah, I had to turn off the heater. I'm sorry for all the background noise, but I was kind of starting to get cold because it was making so much noise and I had the heater on and I had to turn it off for the debate. So, yes, thank you for all the scientists who provided all this. I can't believe Kaz asked you to invited us. He was our moderator. He was a wonderful moderator. By the way, did you like the format?
Loved it. Perfect.
See,
good job, Sal. That was your idea.
Well, okay, this is for a scholarly debate. It doesn't necessarily make for good theater, and so this is one of the things about debate. We have to balance out kind of like the theater aspect and then actually having something substantive. So the format that James adopted for modern day debate was to have a lot of drama, and boy, he free discussion. So lots of shouting matches, and that just gets it going. People just love that. And I said I didn't want that. We're going to work so hard to get the material. By the way, glory and honor to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. This is a Christian channel.
Yes.
You got to see us in pure science mode. I'm glad that people asked me some questions. I'm happy to clarify about my religious beliefs versus scientific. And sometimes I don't understand even the relationship myself. But let me just say a quick prayer right now.
Yes.
Lord, first off, I just thank you that the debate took place. We thought it wouldn't. And we also thank you that the technical equipment just held together barely. There are times that the audio is barely hanging in there. We thank you for our opponents, Grayson and Leo. We thank you for Kaz. Both Kaz, Leo, and Grayson are, as far as I know, openly atheists, and we lift them up. We just thank you for this chance that you've given us to honor you. Lord, you've commanded us that whatever we set our hands to do with all our might, and all, Lord, whether one is a scientist or a cook or, a janitor, we honor you by the way we conduct ourselves. And Lord, we offer up what we did today to you, and thank you for blessing our hands as we did science and we tried to study these things. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Yay!
Yay!
I'm so thankful. And yeah, we have, guys, me and Sal, we've worked so hard on this. Like, I gave a month of my life to this project because, it's been full-time work to read all of this stuff and understand it and work with Sal. Like, we've been working so hard. So anyway, thank you for the nice comments in the chat.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Sorry, go ahead.
Did you see Schnoil's comment? He said, okay. He said, you both did good. You both did very well. I really liked it.
Thank you.
Said,
T.S. Apostle.
Mm-hmm. She did incredibly well, in my opinion.
Thank you. And T.S. Apostolos said, rebutted mucho. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
That was fun.
Well,
it couldn't have gone better, honestly. It couldn't have gone better, honestly. I feel like you did an excellent job, Sal. I was so happy with you. I was happy with me. I was happy with all.
Okay, we have a confession. It didn't look so good Saturday night. Oh my goodness.
What?
Or we only 2 days ago. Okay, I was really sick for one thing. It was either Saturday or I don't even remember.
Oh.
And we were arguing about the Tolman test, and I probably made us both cry. And okay, so the best thing that happened, I think, for me, was that angular turnaround. When I said the angular diameter problem, the Big Bang failed. And oh my goodness, Rebekah was just like, Sal, I'm so confused. It seems like you're contradicting yourself. And I said, yes, I'm sorry. I totally messed this up. Give me one more chance. So that was like, at one time, and I said, give me till this evening to square it away. And then I put something together. I said, please, God, I hope she likes it, because she was really upset. And I was upset too that I wasn't delivering. She said, that was so good. And I was like, I thought that was the throwaway part, was the one where I put the basketball. She said she really liked the basketball example. So let me, if I could bring that up.
Yeah, do it.
I really thought that was like the throwaway. I said, am I going to spend all this time on this example and it's a throwaway? And I said, well, that's my last gasp there, attempt. I'll see what I could do. And I worked so hard on this because, it's supposed to look easy when you deliver it, but to do the research to make sure you're not coming up with something utterly stupid. So, this is it right here. This made or broke my side of the debate, because if I didn't deliver here, I was like, man, I'm toast. And so Rebekah really liked that. And
I did. I thought that did a good job of showing how that chart, how the chart, although it wasn't, I don't think it was understood, but that's as expected, because this is quite a hard concept. I'm not saying this wasn't understood, but I think we need to have a longer talk about how this relates to the expansion of the universe problem.
Yeah. I mean, I was barely. Oh, I'm sorry. People will see my emails. Didn't mean to show that. That's the problem when you share your screen.
What did you show? I didn't see it.
Well, it
Anyway,
just showed all the people I was. I mean, it's not like
talking
it's
to.
really private. It's like,
Yeah.
who's on my email list? Janet.ridge.
Me
Bread
100
of life.
times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Redeemed Sauce. Redeemed Sauce says our intros were amazing. Becky was incredible. Thank you. Appreciate that. It really was a lot of work to be able to do that.
Okay, so all right, you got to tell people. All right, if you feel like it. First off, how long will we have the privilege of?
I can be here as long as we want to talk because I mean, I've already picked up my son, so I'm good now. But I mean, I probably won't want to make it too long.
Well, who's Becky? Yeah. Who's Becky? Is that you?
That's no, your other debate partner, Sal.
Your intros were amazing. Becky was incredible. I'm sorry, I don't joke here.
Becky is short for Rebekah. Becky's short for Rebekah.
Oh, okay.
You're breaking up, Sal.
See, look at that. Your intros were amazing. Well, okay.
Sal, you're breaking up.
I was trying to get the link for Cheryl.
You're going to have to let your green screen go. Hi, Cheryl. Good to see you.
Okay.
So, what do you want to talk about?
Okay,
Sal?
so I was trying to get the link for Cheryl, and so link for Cheryl.
Oh, is she going to come in?
You wanted to see the debate.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's great. Someone's interested. Okay, so Redeemed Sauce is here.
Do you want to let people in to talk about the debate with us if they want? I don't know. Do you do that on your channel?
No, I'll tell you why. Let me see if I can get my camera back in. The reason is for newcomers, people that I don't know. So there have been some attacks that are basically like vandalism. Where they would show very inappropriate stuff before you could just kick them out. And since this is a family-friendly channel, I'm trying to maintain that, and it also keeps my sanity. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Dr. Joel's here, and he's been making some great stuff on his channel lately, talking about there's been a lot of different topics, but one of them was kind of talking about how the young Earth creationists, some of them are attacking other young Earth creationists and calling them like young Earth evolutionists and stuff. And anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Joel, did you see the debate? Yeah.
I'm going to have to shut my camera off. I'm sorry we're having such issues.
Yeah. Yeah, it's okay.
And I hate to
So
force
was there anything you wanted to review from the debate?
I really just wanted to get your impressions if you had things that really stood out. I thought for me, Andrew Cumming, the very last chat, that was the most pointed question I got. And, I didn't like it, but hey, that's science, He asked about the interactions of matter. And that was, I'm thankfully I'd looked into that. So I think the high point was for me was when I said, look, this is the whole theme. One fact can destroy a hypothesis. Even Einstein said that. So they kept saying, look at all these good things. Therefore, you should believe it. And I said, look, that's not how scientific theories are. And in fact, a lot of scientific theories are broken because of a few inconvenient facts. it's not, it's not like you put it on a balance. You have to get, if you find one inconvenient fact, it could destroy your theory. And that's just, so I thought that was, I will say that Leo actually, some of their responses are worth reviewing the tape on, so to speak, because he did make one error when he said, he did compliment me, but then, he said, what Sal just said about that angular diameter, he said Sal didn't say anything wrong, but left something out. And actually he made a mistake there. And, I didn't have time. And it'd be worth doing kind of to review that carefully. So how about what did you think? We both, by the way, felt that we were going to do well. We just kind of had that feeling. The way we felt before is the way we're going to feel after. We just, wanted it to be over.
I honestly don't think it could have gone better. So I didn't hear any responses to the many problems that we brought up, but so, but there aren't responses. So that's the problem when your entire edifice is built on hypothetical entities. Yeah. You don't have responses except yes, we do see dark matter.
Or like, no. Galaxy evolution is separate from the Big Bang. It's like, okay, guys, if there's no time to evolve galaxies, that's bad. I mean, I think the sentiment is that there's just not enough. 200 million years may not be enough. And at the rate we're discovering it, what if we discover them at even farther redshifts? It's like, I thought they were, they did pick on that and say it's not part of the Big Bang model. And like, whoa. Shouldn't the Big Bang be in agreement with other observations and other like kind of common sense things? Like you do need time for the galaxies to evolve. And it is kind of troubling that they're all kind of like, the one thing you see, that's the thing I wanted in the after show. You asked me just now, is there things I wanted you to cover? What did you want to say that we didn't have time to? You know what I wanted to say that didn't have time to, and we argued over it. By the way, good call. I wanted to have my projector screen diagram up. See?
For those watching, Sal made this projector screen, which is actually, it's quite good. But I told him it was going to be too confusing for the time period that we had. And with the time period that we had, it was going to sound like he was totally contradicting what I said in my opening, which there wasn't a contradiction. It's just that he wasn't going to be able to fully explain it with the amount of time. So it would, and some of the wording he was going to use was going to make it sound like he was contradicting me. So I was like, please take that out, Sal. Okay. So you want to go over it now?
Yes. And then I'm sure something will pop up that you wanted to cover. Oh my goodness. All right. Why don't you tell the viewers, I think you had, how many slides did you have in your packet?
Oh, over 100. I've created like 122 slides. I think it might even be more now. I haven't checked the last tally, but I actually got to do quite a lot of my slides because I pulled it up,
Can you show your papers? Your printer was going overtime and
my printer. Yeah, I can show my papers. Yeah. So here's some of my papers. I have on all the topics that they might bring up. I have them color coded and the papers on those topics. And then I have another stack like that that I did have to use. So I don't even think I used that one. But I didn't have time. But then I have this stack, which also has tabs for all the topics that they might bring up. Then I have the galaxies paper that we referred to, there's so much information in this, and honestly, this we did a big show on this, but now we understand it more, so it might be good to do another show on that. But I have that, and I have these other papers. I have the Richard Lee paper. I have the Panic at the Discs. I have the Anomaly. I had a lot of resources in case certain topics came up and I needed a quick answer. And it came in very handy. I don't know if you noticed it, Sal, but I mean, I gave them their answer to the CMB because I had my CMB stuff. I mean, they're asking about the other model, and I had, what Eric Lerner said about that. By the way, I liked how you refuted the CMB. That was good.
Thank you. And I saw you really smile when I said, the Big Bang is like religion, and you just laughed. Your eyes lit up. I said, that's fine. You want to believe it, but I wouldn't classify it as science. It belongs in the religion department.
Yes.
I sincerely mean that, and Matt's is here.
Oh, Sunflower also says that we did a great job.
Yeah. Wow. A home run debate for both of you. Oh, thank you. Oh my goodness. Rebekah is the hardest working at this. So now, let's see. So if you had some stuff that you wanted to share, let's see.
Well, you share your projector while I look if I see stuff I wanted to share.
Okay.
Do your projector. I'm going to share my galaxy in the dress, okay? Because Val didn't let me put this in there.
You're going to see the stuff that we cut out. And by the way, I thank God for Rebekah giving me wise counsel. She cut out so much of what I wanted. And there was, and actually there 4 or 5 times she cut out errors, physics errors on my part. Either directly or she'd raise something up and just like, oh, I better look into that. And so like, even when she was reading through Adam Rees's Nobel lecture, I just like, I thought I understood that. And I go back and I said, I was about to embarrass myself. I was about to totally embarrass myself. And I remember one thing that you confronted me on. She said, Leo said that, the general relativity requires that space contract or expand. And I said, that's not true. That's not true. And then I went to page 57 of my cosmology book. I said, that's what it says in the textbook. I would have been toast if I said that's false. Oh my goodness, I would have been toast. That would have been the end of my credibility. I would have destroyed the whole debate on that. People would not let me live that one down forever, So just wanted to say, okay, so the contested slide, I was going to say, here it is. All right. I will read it like I would have in live. Okay. The Big Bang expanding space model fails the Tolman surface brightness test. To understand why, making an image bigger makes it dimmer, lower apparent surface brightness. And there are mathematical subtleties to all this. We needn't go there. But the point is, the bigger, the dimmer. And so we covered the various angular diameter, the various models and its effect on angular diameter. So this is the Big Bang model. This is the Euclidean model. And this is the Euclidean model corrected for redshift due to plasmas. And so if we take, by way of an analogy, we could say that the Euclidean or the shift happens model would correspond to the basketball there on the small screen, and the Big Bang to the big screen. I'm sorry, because I don't have this all. I had this scripted out, and I'm ad-libbing it here. But there's one point I wanted to say. Oh yeah, so you can kind of make the image bigger by putting more distance between the projector and the screen. Now that's not exactly what happens here, but this is just by way of analogy. Just the principle of the bigger, the dimmer. If you can just remember that, the bigger, the dimmer. And so if we had a galaxy like Andromeda out there in space, under the Euclidean model, it would appear, the word appear to us brighter than it would appear if it were the Big Bang model, expanding space model. Because in the Big Bang expanding space model, it would look bigger but dimmer. And then in the shift happens model, which is Euclidean, it appears smaller but brighter. And what ended up happening, and let me skip down a few slides, is that it would get so dim at high redshift that you couldn't see it. And then it would be the quote then that I read from Michael Disney. Imagine basically the punchline is, imagine our surprise, therefore, when every deep field Hubble image turned out to have hundreds of apparently distant galaxies scattered all over it. The omens do not necessarily look good for the Tolman test at high redshift. If expansion were to fail, then so would the entire superstructure of the Big Bang. And there you go. That was the stuff we cut out, and it was providential because I ended up filling up the time with the criticism of the cosmic microwave background radiation. And because of Rebekah's decision to do that, at the last minute, we really substantially improved our case. And, I don't think they had no counters that I thought were substantive to the problems we pointed out. And I wanted, they kept saying, well, it's still unsolved, it's incomplete. So then they're confronting me about the plasmas. And I'm just like, well, okay, so I can use the same thing about the plasmas. But I said, the difference is we have a hope of working with plasmas. You don't have any hope of having any experiments with expanding space, much less inflation. So
now, yeah. Okay, so guys, this is what I created that Sal wouldn't let me put in the debate. Okay, actually, no, Sal, I had another friend that gave me feedback because after Sal said, no, I don't like it. Then I had another friend that said, I like it, but it's going to distract. But I like this because it explains the problem, because actually this is good for, the thing you mentioned about it getting bigger and dimmer is not the end of the story, guys, because since we aren't observing, like that's not what we're seeing with our actual observations, we're seeing these galaxies out there at the very, very reaches. But since they're calculating for expansion, they have to calculate for what they would expect. And what they would expect is that what they're seeing now should be like bigger because the light used to be closer to us. So then instead of just making a linear relationship, they have to shrink it down. So they see these galaxies that have the same number of stars, the same type of stars, that as like a regular spiral galaxy, regular elliptical galaxy, but they're hundreds of times denser according to the Big Bang, like according to their expansion model. So it's like they're taking a regular galaxy. So I made this galaxy in a dress, and then the guy saying, you look great, I just need you in something smaller, because that's what they have to do to keep their model afloat, is they've got to get that same galaxy to fit in a smaller dress. Are you just now getting it now, Sal?
Okay. This is good. Okay. All right. This is definitely girl humor. You want me to fit in that? I don't know any guy that obsesses as much about fitting in their clothes as much as women. Okay, so now I'm realizing why this would particularly resonate with you, and it didn't resonate with me. And for that matter, guys, in case you've ever wondered, did I ever wear a dress? Absolutely not. It is more recent that I didn't understand. So now when I see this, you want me to? Why don't you say that? Can you say
You
that?
want me to fit in that?
You
look
look
great.
great. Okay. Well, let's
No.
do role playing.
Okay.
Okay, I'll do
Okay.
role playing. You
You
be the
want me to
girl.
fit in that?
Oh, you look great. I just need you in something smaller.
Okay, now the other thing that I didn't get to share that I really wanted to share, but I had to leave it alone. And I'm glad I did leave it alone actually. Where is it? Oh wait, it's backwards. Sorry. These are just some of the mini slides that I didn't use that I had prepared. But anyway, I wanted to
Well, how
pick
did
on
you
the
want to finish after?
singularity.
I'm sorry.
What? Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just remembered you had different endings. Oh, this is like kind of the alternate endings show. So you originally had alternate ending for your opening statement with "Down with the Big Bang" and John Maddox.
Okay, you want me to find that? Let me find that. I don't know where I put it. Hold on. I got to go through Hubble's book. I have so many slides. Sorry. I don't know where that is. It's somewhere in all these slides. It's probably at the very end. Okay, let me talk about the singularity and then I'll do my alternate ending. Okay. So I wanted to talk about the singularity, but it would have taken up the entire time. But I'm glad I didn't because they were prepared for me to do that and they were ready to like take that out of their model, right? Like they were like ready to just, they admitted everything that I wanted to point out. They admitted it in their opening. So what I was trying to point out is that this idea of the Big Bang singularity, this is outside. We cannot actually, this is not scientific actually. Okay. So I have quotes to kind of talk about this. Dr. Sean Carroll says there was a singularity, but there is also a thing called quantum mechanics, which gets in the way. So although, it might work out with general relativity for there to be a singularity, it does not work out with quantum mechanics. And so, the singularity cannot be said to be like something that we can say scientifically because we don't have a way to make that happen. Stephen Hawking says at a singularity, all the laws of physics would have broken down. And so basically we've got to have a point for the singularity. You've got to have a point where like, okay, there's no physics. And then Sal, I think it was one of your friends that said, well, how would you ever get out of that state? Like, how would you get from a state, of this incredibly dense point, and then how would you end up expanding out? And how would you get the laws of physics where there's no laws of physics? Like that, it's a very weird idea and not a really scientific one. Did you want to jump in and say something?
Yes. Let me read. Okay, this is what's interesting. If I can just, this is my graduate textbook on general relativity. I mean, it's really meant for seniors, but we are engineering retreads trying to learn physics, and that was interesting. And in the back of the book, it says here. Okay, this is in technical language, but if you listen carefully, you'll hear something. The generic existence of singularities inside horizons, hidden from the view of distant observers, prompts the question of whether there can be so-called naked singularities. These would be far more problematic for general relativity, for it would mean there could be that situations could arise in which general relativity could make no predictions could make no predictions. And so this is where the laws of physics would break down, which is very interesting. And it says here, one naked singularity seems inescapable in general relativity. The Big Bang of standard cosmology is naked in our view. And it's like, like, all right, I'm going to get theological here. My professor of relativity mentioned the name Frank Tipler in class because Tipler had done a lot of work in general relativity. His professor was John Archibald Wheeler, who had 2 Nobel Prize winners under him. So Tipler's smart. And Tipler was on a radio podcast show, internet radio, and he was being interviewed. The interviewer said, Sal Cordova recommended you, and he had he said you're an atheist, according to your book, and he was very interested in, that's how we heard about you. He said, I'm no longer an atheist. I've concluded that singularity is God. He said, I'm no longer an atheist. That singularity is God. There you go. So, you have all this sciencey sounding stuff, but I thought he cut to the chase.
Sunflower said Hubble's law stuff was outstanding tonight.
Oh, thank you. All right, I have a backlog of things to
share.
Yeah, I have a backlog of people I need to respond to. So
okay.
If I miss your question, just keep trying. Please think about my question as it might sound counter. Why do they always claim they're looking at early galaxies when we're looking at the Hubble Deep Field? Okay. And redshifted galaxies could be from the past or the future and not necessarily the past. Okay. There is something funny in general relativity where the present and past always exist. You kind of see it here. Einstein famously said there's no present or past. And he said, there was a funny quote. It seems like, time is, that there's a present or past is really an illusion, but it's a very convincing one. So, I mean, there is something there could be something to that I've heard. But the reason that we say we're looking at the early galaxies is just like, technically speaking, when you look at an object far, even modest distance, you're actually perceiving it a little bit later than, a little bit later. You're seeing it in the past. Definitely when we transmit out to our space probes in Mars, or when Mars transmits an image to us, it takes 3 hours for light to travel from Mars to us. So we're actually looking 3 hours back into the past, in the Martian clock.
But also, we should point out that when we say early, that's only for the Big Bang model. Because right. The Big Bang model requires that to be early. But, if for us, those galaxies, in our creation model, those galaxies are the same age as like the ones around us, right? Because,
in one creation model where we have almost instantaneous speed of light. And so they did pose questions. I said, do you have a theory? I said, it's religious. At this point, I'm fine classifying it as religious. So religious means you're accepting an idea by faith. You don't have experimental proof. See, like, I have experimental proof there's air around me. I don't, so there are things that we accept by faith, but I don't classify it as proven. I just wanted to clarify that. But anyway, Rebekah, you had a point?
Oh no. That's good. Yeah, like we might be seeing them at an earlier stage, like an earlier because of, like you said, the light travel, but it doesn't mean that they were actually part of the early universe, because like that kind of assumes that there's the directional of the Big Bang. I guess. Well, I guess it doesn't, because then we're seeing it as they were, so it could still be say you could still say it's early.
Yeah, I'll tell you that. Okay, so this is strictly outside experimental science, but you can't help but kind of have religious thoughts, because obviously, what kind of made it for me is I get these hints, because when they said those galaxies look fully formed and just like the ones that we see close to us, I said there's no evolution. And so, you know what? Okay, so let's say, all right, religiously speaking, using scientific data that might help us understand our doctrines and religious beliefs. The way that I read the Bible is God created the heavens and the earth, and He created the stars right where they are. And so if space is not expanding, how did matter get there? And if we have, they say, what happens if you get rid of the Big Bang, you get rid of the beginning? I said, no. Okay, so there's a camp of people that are against the Big Bang and they believe in an eternal universe. But that causes problems for thermodynamics and common sense. The stars could not have been there forever because they're going to burn out. You can use whatever law of physics to arrive at that, you still get this common sense conclusion. So if the universe had a beginning and it's not expanding, how did matter get there? Doesn't it look like those galaxies and stars were just kind of like put there? So I was so tempted when someone said, what's your alternative theory? I said, I have a religious one. I'm obviously a creationist, but it's outside of science. But let's say if we would admit miracles, which I think are outside of science, but the miracles will have consequences in our scientific observations. It looks to me like, I wanted to say, guys, if you're going to appeal to a great cosmic singularity, and it's like, well, what's your mechanism, Sal? It's like, it would be the great cosmic singularity too. But Tipler identified the great cosmic singularity as God. And I tell you, I do not kid you, when my general relativity professor, who happened to be Richard Dawkins' drinking pal, by the way, sometime way back when they were students at Oxford, when he said Tipler's name, I said, God, thank you that I heard that. That meant so much to me, because Tipler believes the great singularity that's in my book is the Christian God. Amen, Lord. So that's why I began, there was parts of this where we're just doing science and it's tedious. And it's just like, this is just, and I could see Rebekah just going page and page of stuff. And I was spending hours, I was not spending as much time with her, but I'm just like, as much time as I spent, it kind of scares me how much time she had to spend. But we would have these moments where we'd start talking and she'd say, hey, Sal, I have these voicemails. Hey, Sal, look at this. I got that quote about Lave. Do you have that one handy? I want you to, she called me. I still have your voicemail on Lave. And we were praising God right then and there. I was on, that was so good. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So good.
And let's see. And by the way, Eric Lerner's the one who sent me that. But I have to pull it up in my opening, because I don't want to go through all my slides again, because I have to go through 100 slides to get back to the beginning. So Ivo Lave says, I nearly spit out my coffee. We just discovered the impossible. Impossibly early, impossibly massive galaxies.
Okay, because we study that may, By the way, you're so organized. Did you see that, guys? I asked her for a quote. Right there. You're the best. You're the best.
Thank you.
That was incredible.
Thank you.
Okay, why did that? I remember being at a rest stop, driving back from Dallas after seeing the president of the Institute of Creation Research, and I was like, oh my goodness, how did it come there? And then I realized if space is not expanding, you could say the same for everything. And it's like, this really looks like the great cosmic singularity. Intelligently designed the universe, put all these parts there. And I think the ongoing comment I was saying is, I think the God of the universe had foreseen our technology in the 21st century. We would be forced at some point to say the only way we could explain the origin of this is by a miracle, and that these things did not evolve. They're placed there, and specially placed there, and very carefully placed there. It fulfills two reasons. It tells us that it was created and not evolved, and that there is a God. And that God is the God of the Bible. And I was just like, this is so cool. And that kind of kept me going. And I said, Rebekah, how do you feel? She said, oh, this is such great sport. I'm just like, I hope you love this for some other things than that. Anyway.
Well, I've never cared about the Big Bang, really and truly. I only got interested in it because, somebody wanted to talk about a book that involved the Big Bang, and I had to learn a little bit about the Big Bang. And then I realized, and I asked you for information, you sent me some, and I was like, oh my gosh, this theory is so weak. I can't believe so many people believe this. So that kind of got me more interested in it. But as far as anything related to God with this, for me, I can see how people could the Big Bang as, God doing the Big Bang, and I'm fine with that. But, I have the same idea as you about, hey, this looks like a ready-made universe. But honestly, I don't need to know anything about these arguments back and forth to look at the stars and give glory to God.
Yeah.
So to me, I can look at any piece of sky and say, wow, you're incredible, God. And so none of these arguments really do anything for me spiritually, if that makes any sense.
Yes. Now Grayson asked, not Grayson, it was Kaz. He said, if you'd like to have an unlimited time debate, you're welcome to. About the Big Bang, I'm available Sunday. You know what that told me? He really liked our discussion. Now I have to say, I don't think I can handle that. I'm so backlogged, as you know, for the stuff I need to do. And that was so great. I really love Kaz. Oh goodness, what a great guy.
Yeah, and I do want to have definitely a discussion with Grayson on my Examining Origin channel, and I want to do our stuff, and I would like to do that stuff this week while it's fresh. because I want to leave the Big Bang behind. I want to do something else with my time. And
all
somebody in the chat is talking about miracles. Hurricane Havoc wants to talk about miracles, and yes, I would love to talk about miracles. It's so much fun. Yes. So I would rather do more spiritual pursuits for a while and set this stuff down. So we got to make our content quick.
Yes. So this is an opportunity to kind of describe our channels. Yeah. I have an academic channel that does focus on science, in the sense that a lot of my viewers are graduate students in science and even professors of science. And so I totally nerd out on that channel. It's called the Evidence Reasons Academy. So if you view some of the other videos, you'll actually find links to it. It may be in my About page that I link to the Evidence Reasons Academy. So this channel is to encourage Christians by covering evidence and reasons for the Christian faith. We cover archaeology. We cover Christian testimonies of people that have experienced miracles or God changing their lives. History and archaeology. We do criticize evolutionary theory, as we believe that even though creation scientists will get on my case and I'll say, miracles are outside of science. That's just my definition. But I say that you can use science to say that natural processes won't work. For, like the origin of life or certain transitions. And that certainly helps people believe there has to be a God. And that's kind of the way that I look at it. And so that's what I cover on this channel a little bit. But I'm trying to make it not too technical on this channel. All the heavy lifting technical stuff is on the academic channel, and we call it nerd torture. So perhaps you'd like to talk about your Examining Origins channel or something.
Oh yeah, if anybody's not subscribed, I have two channels. I have the Bread of Life channel, which is a spiritual channel, although for the past year and a half, it's had a lot of content for atheists on there, but I'm stopping that now. It's going to be back to being, Christian content, or for people who are open to hearing about the Lord, evangelistic channel. And I have another channel that used to be called Examining Evolution, but now I changed the name to Examining Origins, so to include things like the Big Bang and also young Earth creation, because me and Sal probably everybody knows that you are a young Earth creationist, so am I. So I want to talk more about that stuff. Somebody in the chat asked for us to talk about inflation, which is something that I wanted to talk more about but I had to cut down my opening because 5 minutes is not a lot to say. But what I wanted to say about inflation is that it's another one of those hypothetical entities. This is a hypothetical process that's made up in order to solve problems. So inflation is supposedly it happened toward the beginning of the Big Bang, and it was a process by which the universe was able to expand faster than the speed of light, exponentially and rapidly for a very short time, and then something suddenly stopped it. And then this is no different. This really is no different than saying like, oh, dark fairies did it. Dark fairies, there's no difference between dark matter, dark energy, inflation, and fairies. Okay. You cannot falsify it. No one can say, no, inflation didn't happen, because if there's any observation that contradicts it, you can just say, well, but you can make up a new parameter to kind of fix it. And what the reason that the theory needs inflation is because there were several problems that were crippling the Big Bang theory. The monopole problems, the horizon problem, and the flatness problem. Those theories were crippling the Big Bang, and they needed to fix those problems. And inflation, this made up process, conveniently fixed those problems. So Leo was probably, I've heard him in conversation before talk about the evidence for inflation, and and then I've got some evidence against inflation. But yeah, that's really the quote I did put up about inflation. Well, actually, I just quoted Roger Penrose saying one word: it's a fantasy. Okay. And Roger Penrose is a Nobel Prize winning physicist. And he admits this about inflation. I mean, not even admits, he has brutally attacked inflation as just something that was made up to help the universe do what we wanted it to do. So this is a full quote from Roger Penrose. The universe was supposed to have expanded far more rapidly than anything we're aware of now. It's called exponential inflation and expansion. I'm sorry. And that's called inflation. And it's very much a part of conventional cosmology. To me, that's the weak point of conventional cosmology, because you have to introduce ideas where there is no other reason but for making it do this. Okay. Like it's just for making it do what you need it to do. So he's been very critical of the Big Bang, of inflation. Roger Penrose believes in the Big Bang, but he just rejects that part of it. So anyway, that's I guess all I have to say about it. Do you want to say anything about it?
Yes, I was frantically looking at my other computer here. So I, now that I'll Google in another one, and let me see if I could find it. It is really so funny. This is so funny. This is from the Discovery Institute, which a lot of people accept the Big Bang at the Discovery Institute, but they let him cover this. I might be able to just kind of read it, but it's like Berlinski is kind of, it's definitely thick on inflation. But okay, first is a personal anecdote, and I didn't say this in the debate. I used to accept the Big Bang. I used to be a theistic evolutionist, an old Earth creationist, and then a young Earth creationist. When I was and I went off to Johns Hopkins because I said I wanted to resolve some issues about origins, because it has religious implications. And I said, if there's a chance that young Earth creationism could be true, then it will help me in my faith. I didn't have to have it absolutely proven. And so I sat on the class on inflation and they were describing it. And they said, well, you have all these problems, but hey, we could fix it if we get matter to be separated at speeds faster than the speed of light. How about that? I'm just like, I was like, good gravy. I thought young Earth creationism was outrageous until I heard that. I said, if you could believe that, I could believe in young Earth creationism, because my theory is not that much more outrageous than yours, guys. I almost fell out of my seat. And, the professor was just calling me, said, what a beautiful theory. And I just like, well, yeah. That whole thing that I said about a beautiful hypothesis, this one can't even be taken down by an ugly fact because it can't even be falsified. I'm just like, goodness, so that's just from a personal anecdote. I was, that was all like my, spit my coffee out time, because I was just like, oh, I came to this school to hear about that. You're kidding. And so there's this excellent essay by David Berlinski. It's simple. Was there a Big Bang? Now, the best one, I think, in my opinion, was Michael Disney's, Cosmology or Folktale. That is my favorite essay. But Berlinski was, up until that one, it was Berlinski. And he talks about inflation. He said there's a funny consequence where sometimes it won't be stable, and you could create all these baby universes, and you'll have all these universes you can't see. We don't know what happens to them. And I'm like, yeah, this is starting to sound more like theology. So, okay.
Yes.
And I think I was very proud of your performance, because you obviously showed that you'd studied very carefully and they weren't picking on you. I felt they respected your knowledge this time around. It's like they could tell you studied this. Your opening kind of, really set them straight. And for the record, in case anyone...
You're covering your mic. You're covering your mic. You somehow your mic went out. If you maybe you moved away from it.
I'm sorry. It's one
That's
of these
okay.
directional ones.
Yeah.
I need to get one of those fancy stands. For the record, Rebekah wrote all of her opening that I remember. I might have commented, and usually she won when I said, change that.
Yeah, Jamie Russell's here. And Jamie, yeah, I have to say, you gotta. I think it's worth your time. I think that was a good show. He said he has to watch it now. I'm telling him, yeah, he should watch it. I would tell you if it wasn't worth your time. There's been a lot of the stuff that I've done that I would say is not worth your time, but I think that was a good one.
Yeah. So rest in peace, David Berlinski. Did he pass away? No. That's so sad.
Really?
Someone said, I didn't know you're a young Earth creationist.
Cool. We need more of those around, don't we? Oh, good. This is a good question. Do you want to answer this, Sal?
But for some reason, some matter survived. That's our universe.
Read it out for people who are not
Please
reading.
talk about what I like to call keep the change model. To maintain the zero, it claims matter and antimatter canceled each other. But for some reason, some matter survived, and that's our universe. Actually, my professor covered it a little bit in cosmology. I didn't completely understand it. Eric Lerner said, with the amount of heat or something, it should have all canceled out, and you wouldn't have had this matter imbalance. So I really don't know much about it, but everyone kind of acknowledges that if you do have antimatter, why don't we have it in equal amounts? It is a perplexing problem. So it becomes moot if we adopt what I call the ready-made universe model. And you know, because it has such religious implications, I was reluctant to put it on the table. But I said, if you don't have expanding space, then how did the stars form? Where did the matter come out? I'm just like, you know, this is why at a deeply personal level, you falsify expanding space, it almost goes straight to some sort of creationist model where a miracle of God put all the planets and stars in the heavens, because I don't know where else it's going to come from. So how that paradox is solved, that a divine miracle created the imbalance, that is the reason. Now, you know, if we're able to establish, you know, just through deduction, that a miracle created the universe, then that paradox goes away. It's just, you know, so that's how I would answer it. But I mean, people have thought about it, and it's like that's kind of too deep for me, honestly. But thank you. That's a great question. And if I missed anything, yeah, just repeat a question.
It's the way out used to avoid the question, where did matter come from? So they claim the universe amounts to zero matter and zero energy, except, of course, for the keep the change matter.
Yeah, this is like, because of the conservation of energy. I mean, there are all sorts of problems. It's like, where did matter? I mean, that's a pretty profound question, you know. And if there's no expanding space, it's going to be even more painful to deal with. And, you know, so people say, does, you know, the Bible inform my understanding? And you know, that did kind of catch me off guard, but I said, well, you know, yes. But I wanted to say, the universe sort of tells me there's a God. And so science informs my understanding, and it also informs my understanding of religion. It makes me believe there's a God. I mean, it's kind of, I think I would say this last year, it's really unavoidable. I mean, the universe won't make sense without a creator for me, you know, so,
Yeah.
come to think of it, I was wondering why I didn't see your cat come up.
He was locked out during the debate. I mean, come on. I had papers around. I had everything. I couldn't have my cat coming. He has a way of really interrupting. When I start getting on a stream, he can really interrupt. He'll come and walk across the camera.
Do you have to pick up your son?
No, I already picked him up. So I'm good now.
Wow, you're
but
so
I
quick.
think I'm getting a little bit tired out. So
Okay.
maybe we can just answer Jamie's question and then close it, or I can leave. But do you want to? What are your thoughts?
I'd like you to just have your parting word or something. Before you deserve a break now because you've worked so hard. And I just wanted to say, I doubt that I'll be able to do Kaz's request. I'm flattered, and I think both of us are wanting to put this behind us. And I also think the Big Bang debate the Big Bang question will not be resolved by more debate. It'll be resolved as we gather more facts. I mean, what I've seen come out in the last 40 years is just amazing. We went from like, there's no chance that the Big Bang's wrong to like, you see what's happening now. And my brother-in-law told me, one of his physics friends, who's a professor, he said many of the young professors out there said they're very skeptical of the Big Bang. They just go to another field of physics, because there's lots of other physics outside of cosmology. And
right.
they just, they don't want to cause a ruffle. And there's plenty of opportunity to do other kinds of physics.
Yeah.
But he said a lot of them are just very, very skeptical. They just, there's kind of a quiet, there's kind of that quiet undercurrent. And I definitely saw it when I was at George Mason. I mean, that's so funny. Oh yeah, I'm studying the big, not intensely, but it's in my textbooks. And here their professors say, no, that's wrong. It's like, So if you had anything you wanted to share before, I'm going to continue on and just then I'm going to shut it down after you. But I thank you. Let me just say while you're here, thank you so much for your hard work. I learned enormous amounts from the research you uncovered, even when you were passing on papers to me saying, Sal, can you make sure that I'm understanding this right? And that diagram that led to the one with the basketballs, like, wow, thank you.
And thank you, Sal. You remain the best creation advisor. I'm so grateful for your hard work on this. You've really dedicated a lot to this too. And I had fun working on it with you. It was really good.
Thank you. And for its worth, I mentioned the research in photonics. I'm still thinking about a PhD, and it would be possibly in the area of photonics. And you can guess why. Because the questions that they were posing is like, how can you keep the plasmas from blurring? It's like, this is why I want to study photonics, because there's hope we might solve the problem and we might finally crush the big, religion's kind of hard to fight. The Big Bang is a big religion.
And now, can you put up Jamie Russell's question, and then I'll answer that, okay, and then I'll go.
What was it?
It's a little bit farther up. It's, if the universe is expanding, how? Okay, so what is Jamie saying here? Word, something's totally wrong with it. Okay. Well, the universe, our conclusion is that it is not expanding. And actually, before me and Sal really dove into this, I wasn't sure about that. I mean, I didn't know what to think about that. But as I looked at it, actually, if you notice in the debate, they do not give a shred of evidence for the universe expanding, because we don't have evidence that the universe is expanding. What we have is evidence of a relationship between redshift and distance. And we don't know what's causing that. But there's, as Sal put in his presentation, it could be velocity, which we don't accept, but like how Sal showed his radar gun, and there was like a cloud of plasma that the thing was passing through. And so maybe the reason that we see redshift is because of the particles that the light has to pass through. And so we don't know for sure, but we have better ideas than the expanding space model. And the expanding space, there's nothing for space expanding. But the reason that space, they made up this space expanding thing, and this is real. We saw this in Hubble's book. He says over and over again, we can't accept that this is velocity, because that would mean we're in a favored position in the universe. Basically, if it's not expansion, if it's just velocity, which by the way, we don't accept velocity. Me and Sal don't think it's velocity. We don't think everything is speeding away from us. Okay. We think there's another explanation for the redshift. But the reason that they made up expansion is because they couldn't tolerate the idea of everything possibly moving away from the Earth all at once, because that would put us at the center of the universe. And that is unacceptable. Actually, in Hubble's book, he called it a horror. He said, we can't tolerate the horror of the idea of us having that special location in the universe. So we postulate maybe it could be expanding. But actually, Hubble didn't even like the expansion theory. He actually said, we will call it apparent velocity, but maybe there's another explanation for it. And he even said it could be, the redshift could be related to something regarding how the light is passing through the universe. So
I got to credit you. I could not, some of the stuff you found, my jaw just dropped. I got this message on my cell phone. It's like, Sal, look, I found Hubble's book and I'm reading it. I can't believe it. And she would quote from it. And I just like, that was really impressive. I just like, I could see why she was excited. Because this is what's very powerful. In my textbook, it said Hubble, said it was expansion, and that's not actually historically accurate. They kept saying Hubble, deduced that this was expansion. It's like that's kind of revisionist history. I mean, it's probably just careless scholarship. I'm not saying anything nefarious, but I'm like, oh my goodness, people don't know that he had these views. But I thought the thing that I don't understand, okay, just at a personal, spiritual, whatever human level, why would you be horrified that we're in a special place? And I think, okay, this is my guess. If we're in a special place, that's very close to being miraculous. We are, it is a miracle we're here, and we're in a specially created universe, just in a sense, not just for us, but especially for us.
Yes. And I think we are, but let's be clear to the people who are watching. We are not saying that we are in like this special place where things are zooming away from us in all directions.
Right, exactly.
We are interpreting the redshift in a different way. We believe that it has to do with the light. So we're not saying that was a special place. It was just when Hubble was listing among the options of how we could interpret redshift, he couldn't tolerate it as just a straight velocity because of the special place it would put us in.
Now, Halton Arp was Hubble's assistant, very respected. Jamie Russell mentioned his name. Halton Arp did point out there is in fact, this was beautiful what he said when you said, look at all these big structures. It sort of means that the universe isn't as homogeneous as we think. And this would say, it would suggest there could be a privileged place in the universe. Now, there is something called, interesting, you can Google this, it's called the fingers of God. The fingers of God. And they try to explain it away, and I'd be interested if there's a non-expanding universe, then you have all these structures that look like little pies, pie slices. And guess where they're all pointing? To us. And so you can Google where it says the fingers of God are pointing to you. And I mean, you break the expanding things. This is what's exciting is, to me, what is a horror for Hubble is something we Christians are going to rejoice in. That we are in a special place and the fingers of God are pointing at you. Yep. Well, maybe I should let you go. I tell you what, before you say goodbye, can I just impose upon you to say, maybe in the next 2 or 3 weeks, could there be a show we might think about doing, like say on testimonies? Or
Yeah, of course.
Maybe in the next month we could do a show. I got to tell you, this one has worn me out so much. I don't know that I want to do any shows with, don't take it personal, with anyone except for me to do my old nerd torture sessions. By the way, now I'm having a series of lectures, Physics Adventures for Rebekah. I'm no longer going to be bothering you to even watch them. I am going to do that series of lectures in tribute to your hard work.
Oh.
I'm going to read from the book by Bondi. So that special relativity book, Einstein, Common Sense Einstein. But I wanted to, that's my way of saying thank you for your hard work and the inspiration. I know you could have cared less for the Big Bang, and that's why I'm all the more amazed. But for me, what I learned in this, I said, I'm even more convinced now there's a God, and that it's the God of the Bible. Through all this, through all the technical stuff, all the stuff with angular diameter, and we're going through the units of the Hubble constant.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Sal. And it was an honor to work with you. And
Likewise.
Thanks everybody for watching, and have a good night.
Have a good night. God bless you, Rebekah. Take care.
God bless you. You too.
So there you have it, everyone. And I'm sorry if I've missed some of the comments. Okay. Gravity and dark matter is positive space-time curvature, and expansion and inflation is negative space-time curvature. I never heard it characterized that way. I never heard that. That's Mr. Oh my goodness, Mr. Jetty. Okay, here's another guy I need to totally acknowledge. God bless you, brother. We're praying for you out there in Ukraine. And thank you for taking time to watch my channel. I owe you a few responses in the emails. You can see where I've been kind of just occupied trying to get this debate. Rebekah worked so hard on this, and that kind of motivated me to try to work hard also, because I didn't want to spoil the time that she invested in this. There is something in this debate that I owe to you, Mr. Jetty. And by the way, what kind of accelerator do you work on again? You mentioned it before. So I had this diagram here. Let me see if I could share it. Share screen. And guys, let me know if my audio starts to break down. It was because of you that I got that particular diagram. That was awesome. So that angular turnaround from Science Asylum, I used it in the debate tonight to introduce. So I said, okay, like if you had in the Big Bang model, when objects move far away from you, at some point they start to get bigger. And that was the angular turnaround. It was Mr. Jetty, the first one to introduce me to that idea. And honestly, let me see. I don't know. Good night, Mats. God bless you, and thank you for hanging out with me in Dallas. I really enjoyed the Thai food, and that yogurt place was fabulous. Maybe someday we will. Oh my goodness, a microtron. Yeah. Thank you very much. So let me look in my cosmology textbook. And angular turnaround. All right. I don't think it's not in the index. It doesn't have that word angular turnaround. But let me see if they have a diagram of that. I don't think it's in my cosmology book that it mentions it. And I really am indebted to you for introducing me to the topic, because just when you think you've heard everything of importance there, you find something that you didn't know about. So that was a pretty important important part of my case against the Big Bang, is the angular turnaround. And I do want to say this, and I'm really not trying to pick on Leo. He did compliment me on something, and I did appreciate that. So he said what Sal said was actually accurate, which I think, but he said I left something out. And actually, he said, well, that's all based on the Euclidean model. And what I'm trying to say is that, okay, let me go to this diagram. This diagram is not model dependent. It's just the angular diameter. So whatever you see, the way you see it in the sky is your angular diameter. So all these data points here are just the way you see it in the sky. This is objective fact. What it is saying, though, is if we have some reasonable assumption that galaxies are going to be about the same size, even approximately, you would start to see a lot of them start to cluster here. Why is it that they cluster down here? And so Leo said that he seemed to imply that this data was computed with the Euclidean model. This is a model, the actual measurements are model independent. Or they can be made to be. I mean, all right, so all you do is you point a telescope in the sky. All right, it's just like that basketball. It has it's this big in your visual field, and that's angular diameter. So I seriously, people that are advocates of the Big Bang, I think this is a problem for your model. And so as I said, one observation could cause it to break. I mean, I thought we put enough out there, and this leads to the Tolman surface brightness. You have angular diameter, fails the Tolman surface brightness. The microwave background radiation, I wouldn't say the Big Bang necessarily breaks on it, but it may be local. You have the axis of evil, and then you have the absence of gravitational lensing. That's problematic. So Tolman's, the lack of time dilation, that may resolve this. This is going to be really big, because if that's not resolved, this is I mean, it's dead. It's dead. And that leads to kind of a ready-made universe model. Now, that's not necessarily young Earth creationism at that point. I mean, that's still, even though I'm a young Earth creationist, that's not necessarily enough to get you from an empirical standpoint. So, Samir says, Sal, see my previous question, please. Is this your question? So they claim, built a wild science on this concept. What if it's neither? Someone said, how often do you go live? I'd like to join the talk. I usually don't. It's very rare. I have only select people that I have on my channel, so I'm sorry. And I don't go live like I'm having now very often. This is an unusual debate because the Big Bang is very technical, and also, in a sense, the debate won't be resolved until we have certain more data points. And I mean, I'm already resolved that it's false. But there's still a lot of open questions. There are a lot of open questions. So thank you for your interest. And, I'm glad people want to talk to me, but I'm so behind in all of my work. So, verses before the tribulation. Okay, so KLI, thank you. I hope we answered your question about inflation. See if Mr. Jetty's here, a microtron. I'll try to remember that. See if I can remember that. A microtron. Microtron. And I honestly didn't know about this. Positive space-time curvature. Negative space-time. And so there was a curvature parameter. And they said if the Riemann tensor is 0, there's no curvature. And I don't, oh boy. This is where I always, they talk about flatness. Don't want to go there right now. Those Riemann curvature tensors, Riemann tensors in general, I'm just like, I've forgotten so much. So let me just, maybe what's on my heart is to, I've laid out a few things. Were there some things in the debate I wanted to cover? I think I covered most of them. I think I covered most of what I really wanted to discuss in the debate. Actually, we did a very good job, I think, of communicating a lot more than we thought we could communicate in the limited time we had. So let me see before I wrap it up if I have anything else to say. So I articulated what I have on my channel. Most of the shows that you see on this channel, Evidence and Reasons for the Christian Faith, will not be so technical. The technical stuff will be on the Evidence Reasons Academy. And let me see if I happen to have, if there's anything in the About page that talks about the other channel. Yeah, you can get to that other channel through there. So I don't have much else to say. Let me try to get the closing credits going. And I'm going to shut it down and maybe have a little snack or something. Let me see. Just give me if you will indulge me, I would deeply appreciate it. I'm going to have 2 closing credits here. Let's see. And then I'm going to just shut it down. So the first one will be this. Hang on. Let me get going. and we're almost ready to shut down. So, glory and honor to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And for my brothers and sisters out there, grace to all those who love Jesus Christ, our Savior. And thank you so much for your interest in our work on science. That's kind of our secular work in the world. And then, but this channel covers spiritual things. And so, God bless you all richly. So I'm going to go now to the closing credits. And thank you so much all for joining us. Take care and God bless you.